Morning all, and welcome to a News of the Day video for your Friday, July 31st, the last day we have until hockey is going to be on all day, every day, for a while. So, this is a board I've been working on for a while, and the note that's at the top, I wrote down after the last game of the night, not last night, but the night before that. And I like the 13th forward and 7th defenseman. I like the idea of dressing 13 forwards and 7 defensemen. I know this is something that they're doing just because we're in this unique situation and everything. But I like the idea that if a guy gets hurt during the game, there's somebody else there to replace him. So for all of those times where we've seen a team down to 4 defensemen, down to 10 forwards, having an extra forward and an extra defenseman, it's actually kind of nice. And it gives a coach even added flexibility, where if a guy just doesn't have it that night, all right, you are now the 13th forward, and this guy who was the 13th forward, he'll do your job. And it's less guys in the press box. How often have we as fans said it doesn't do any good to have that guy in the press box? At least these guys are suiting up. At least they're there. I think it's a good setup. But we'll see whether or not the NHL agrees and decides to say, you know what, we'll just throw... It's not like they're adding extra guys to the roster. These are guys who are already there. It's just instead of having them as a healthy scratch, you just have them in the lineup. The AHL is targeting December 4th for its return. Now, the AHL, it's going to be very interesting to see how they do this, because the AHL is far more relying on fan attendance and ticket sales than the NHL. The NHL, yeah, there's definitely, that large portion of their money that comes from those tickets, but it is less than half of their money comes from tickets. So more than half of the NHL's income comes from elsewhere. In the American Hockey League, almost all of it is via attendance. So it'll be interesting to see how things are by December and whether or not that's a realistic goal or they have to push it back. The Hockey Diversity Alliance apparently butting heads with the NHL on how to make change. And this is how this works. That, there's definitely going to be those in the corporate world that say, okay, we can't do that. And they may have their reasons for it. And the Diversity Alliance, apparently there's been some heated exchanges, according to Evander Kane. And now where Evander Kane is concerned is that there's this I play for idea, and it's also incorporating equality of women and LGBT, and this is something I've seen the NHL do this before, where there's a clear message and then it's just, well, we'll just put everything into it. You can't just put everything into it, because it definitely makes it so that it just, yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening, but again, on a corporate side, they're probably looking and going, we don't want to just have this one message. We don't. It is bizarre. It really is. It's bizarre seeing what's going on around the sports world right now. And just maybe it's the cynic in me going, how real is this on the corporate side? So, we'll see. We'll see what goes on with that, and whether or not any headway is made, or if these councils and committees were created for PR. That's really, I feel like that's where we're at. Seattle, finally with the Seattle logo on the board and all that. It actually made its debut on the Entertainment Guy channel. Just throwing that out there. Dave Biseggio has been hired as the pro scouting director. He worked in the Anaheim front office. So this is news in that Seattle's now got their pro scouting director. The pro scouting is what's going to decide how good they are as an expansion team. It is a big part of how Vegas was able to put together a really good roster. George McPhee had his first, second, third, fourth lines mapped out on paper. Starting goaltender backup, his top 6 defensemen as well. This is the task that lies ahead for Ron Francis. To scout around the league and go, okay, here's what I want my team to look like. And to conduct these expansion drafts of his own and come up with scenarios of who he might get and what his entire roster is going to look like. So they are definitely headed in the right direction. When is a coach going to get announced? I would think probably as we get towards next year. Once we get into the following season, they may look towards getting a coach. Sheldon Keefe apparently is pushing William Nylander harder in practices, scrimmages. Believes that there's more there, and I tend to agree. As good as he is, I do think he can be better. And it's one of those situations where players will often complain at the time, but later on they'll say, that coach, he was really the best for me. He got the best out of me. So we'll see. We'll see how this works out with the Leafs. If they win the round against the Columbus Blue Jackets that starts on the weekend, and then they move on from there, Keefe will be seen as being an amazing coach. If they lose the play-in against Columbus, we may be having a different conversation as soon as 10 days from now. Brad Marchand got hurt late in the game yesterday. It looked to me like it was a groin. It's one of these injuries that we're probably going to see. And it is going to be frustrating to players. I know it'll be frustrating to fans. There isn't really a way around it. Because, again, they're using muscles that in some cases they haven't used since March, and they had an abbreviated training camp, and there likely could be some injuries out of it. There's no idea at this time. I did double check before I started this video up. No idea whether or not he's going to play against Philadelphia on Sunday. I'm going to say maybe. The good news is it's the Bruins, so if he's not good to go for the round robin, it's not the end of the world if you're a Bruins fan. Speaking of injuries, no word on Cogliano yet either. Andrew Cogliano. It was an awkward collision. It was definitely not something that you can look at and go, oh, that was terrible, and suspensions and all that. We'll get to that. But it was just one of those things. It was one of those collisions that happens. It was an interference penalty, but it was just weird. And I don't know what happened, but Sagan is expected to be back for the round-robin tournament. He didn't play yesterday. He's expected to be back. No word yet on Cogliano and whether or not he's going to play in the round-robin. On the injury front, Florida, Ekblad, very likely to return for the play-in, and Mackenzie Weegar, who missed their game, their exhibition game as well. He is very likely to be in their lineup too. So Florida should be healthy, good to go when they start their play-in round against the New York Islanders. Florida's going to be interesting to watch. They've got to play better than they did against Tampa a couple days back, or that series could be quick. John Carlson was not at practice yesterday, and there's no real indication yet on Carlson's condition. But much like Dallas, much like Boston, they have the round robin. They do not have to play for their lives over the next 10 days, whereas there's 16 teams that will be playing for their lives. A third of the players that we see playing right now won't be playing in 10 days. They'll be going back home. So there's a lot of teams that over the next 10 days have some work to do, and the intensity level is going to ramp up. And for the other 8 that are doing the round robin, they do have that buffer. They just can't get lazy and complacent during that period in time. Last night during the game between Arizona and Las Vegas, Nick Schmaltz got hit with an elbow up high from Ryan Reeves, and I haven't seen anything about NHL player safety. I haven't seen anything about any kind of suspension yet. It doesn't mean it's not happening, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to bother with it or not. It was an elbow. It caught him in the chin. At least from the angle I saw, it looked like it caught him in the chin. I would be very surprised if Schmaltz isn't concussed. And if Arizona's without Nick Schmaltz going into that play-in round against Nashville. I already had Nashville winning that play-in round without Schmaltz. It becomes an even more difficult task. But it was one of those cases, too, where it showed the 13 forward setup is actually, it's just better, where Barrett Hayden then jumped in and got a more prominent role after Schmaltz got hurt. So, we will see what happens with them, and we will see what happens from here for the rest of the National Hockey League. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. How excited are you about tomorrow? This is the calm before the storm, where tomorrow we're going to be busy with some hockey. So I'll get that preview video up soon, and we'll discuss which games are on when and where you can watch them, all that stuff. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe all the time. Just that's fine. And not like unsubscribe and resubscribe. Just if you're passing through, just hit that button. And hey, thanks for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.